Assalamualaikum everyone. Okay, so for today we'll proceed with the next lesson. We are still in the same topic, that is functional requirements, but we will focus on the second core function, that is maintain. Okay, last week we have covered this one, right? Create, and the sub function is the capture, identification, and classification. So for today, we're going to focus on the second core function, that is maintain, which is managing trusted records and retention schedule. Okay, are you ready? Okay, before we proceed, did you still remember what is functional requirements? Okay, let's see the definition of functional requirements. Okay, functional requirement is a description of the requirements of a system. Okay, so the instruction of the system. So our system is electronic records management system. So when we are talking about electronic records management system, it is necessary to identify what are the types of functionality a record keeping system should perform, because ERMS and other information application system are different. Okay. So when we are talking about electronic records management system, we capture the evidence. Okay, so what are the requirements to ensure that the records can be used as evidence? Okay, so for today, we will focus on the next functional requirement, the second one, that is maintenance, maintain. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is maintenance. Okay, the second core functions of ERMS. Okay, so the definition of maintenance is the range of process and tasks for protecting records from unauthorized access, loss or disruption, theft or disaster, and retaining their integrity over time. Or, in other words, maintenance is the daily care of the records. Okay, according to National Archive of Malaysia, the maintenance process consists of hybrid records management, control and security, retention, migration, and disposal. Okay, what is hybrid records management? Basically, hybrid records management is a document or records that are available in two forms, okay, which is hard copy format and also the digital format, okay? So, it is necessary to have a functional requirements, okay, to identify on how these records should be linked, okay? Okay, and secondly, the controls and security. When we're talking about the control and security, we'll focus on the integrity of the records, okay? The record should be secure in terms of alteration, deletion, modification, and so forth. And then, the third one is retention, okay? Retention focus on how long to retain the records, okay? Is it permanently or just a certain period of time? Okay, and then in terms of migration and conversion, and lastly in terms of disposal, and this one definitely we must refer to the retention schedule. So it is agreeable that records that are required to be maintained should remain accessible, okay, because we are talking about electronic records, and their integrity should be protected, okay, and those records should meet the condition or requirements identified in order to satisfy business needs, organizational accountability, and community expectations. Okay, let's see. Okay, the sub function. That is, the first one is managing trusted records. Okay, don't worry, I'll show you the functions of ERMS. Okay, so the maintenance, focus on the daily care of the records, and then the sub-function will focus on the managing trusted records and retention and disposal. So let's see the first one. Managing trusted records. So managing trusted records is the activities associated with controlling, storing, tracking, appraising, preserving, and disposing of manual, electronic, and image records in order to maintain the trustworthiness of the records. Okay. So what is the trustworthiness of the records? Okay. Trustworthiness of the record is the records can be trusted. We can trust the content of the records. We can rely on the records to when we can rely on the records in any, we can use the records for any business transaction. We can rely on the records as evidence, for example. Okay, so basically, trustworthiness of the record is often defined in terms of reliability and authenticity. Okay, so what is reliability? Reliable, you can rely on the records. So the records can be used as evidence. Okay, so basically, this is the definition. A record is regarded as reliable when it is complete. That is, when it possesses all the elements that are required by the socio-judicial system in which the record is created for it to be able to generate consequences recognized by the system itself. Okay, so basically, reliability is the record can be used as evidence. The reliability is the record is complete in terms of the content, context, and structure. Did you still remember previous lesson? We focus on the content, context, and structure. Okay, so basically the content in terms of the text, the content of the records. Okay, the content is the linkages between one records to another records, or in other words, we capture the unique identifier, the metadata. Okay, so and then the structure, the appearance of the records, the arrangement, and the formats of the records. Okay, so let's see the example. Okay, this is the record. Okay, so when we are talking about the trusted records, okay, the trusted, which is consists of reliability, and authenticity. So reliability here means that we can rely on the records. Means that the record is complete, okay, in terms of the content, okay, and in terms of the context, the unique identifier. So, for example, the date, okay, the location, the doctor signatures, and so forth. And then in terms of the format, the arrangement and appearance. Okay, so that is when those content, context, and structure being captured, then the digital record is reliable. Okay, so that is in terms of reliability. Okay, okay, what about the authenticity? Okay, when we are talking about trustworthiness of the records is often defined in terms of reliability and authenticity. So what is authenticity? Authenticity is a record. A record is authentic when it is the document that it claims to be. Okay, basically, authentic means that we focus on the record's integrity, where it does not result from any manipulation, substitution, or falsification occurring often after the completion of its procedure of creation, and that it is therefore what it purports to be. So basically, authenticity means that the originality of the records, okay, means that we focus on the integrity in terms of it is safe from the alteration, modification, changes, and so forth, okay. So that is authenticity in terms of the originality. Okay, so if the records has the first one reliable and the second one is authentic, then we can rely on the records, and the record is a trusted record. Okay, and the system should have the requirements on the reliability and also the authenticity. Okay, okay, for example, if we have the functional requirements, that it's easier for the system designer, system developer to develop the trusted electronic records management system. Okay, for example, this is one of the examples of the functional requirement. Okay, so the functional requirement is the system must maintain authenticity, reliability, and integrity of electronic records and metadata at all times, regardless of maintenance activities and other user actions or failure of system components. Okay, so basically, this requirement, when you give to the system developer, and then the system developer can design the system, can develop the system based on our requirements. Okay, so for example, in Sharia Judicial Department, okay, JKSM, okay, basic. So this is the examples of functional requirement. Okay, the system must enable the JKSM to demonstrate the authenticity, reliability, and integrity of records against media deterioration following transmission and so forth. Okay, so this one, the system demonstrate using metadata and audit trail. Okay, basically. So what is audit trail? So audit trails means that the system are able to provide a tracking feature to monitor and record information about the location and movement of both electronic and non-electronic records. For example, in terms of the unique identifier of the records, data item sent, move from location and so forth. Okay, so the system, okay, so that is the audit trail where the system are able to keep track of the movement of the records. In addition, okay, another examples of the functional requirement, okay, is the system must be able to maintain and display the audit trail of file addition, modification, and deletion. Okay, so basically, every action taken in the system must be captured in the audit trail. Okay, so, okay, so this is the functional requirement, a description of the system. When every organization has the functional requirement, then it is easier for the system developer to develop the trusted electronic records management system. And how are we going to develop the functional requirement? And definitely based on the best practice. Okay, that one I will teach you later. Okay, so we are still in the functions of maintenance. Okay, and then this one is focused on the security. Okay, so the functional requirement in terms of the security, for example, the secure password according to the procedure of Malaysian judiciary is that the password must contain strong combination of alphanumeric numbers and symbols. The length of the password must be at least 12 characters. Okay, so when this is the functional requirement, so the system developer should develop the system which the password should have 12 characters. Okay, and the password should have the alphanumeric numbers and symbol. If one of the combination is missing, the user will get notification to create password based on the combination. Okay, and then that one is in terms of the password, and then the system must be able to protect the audit trail against modification by any user, including a system administrator. Okay. Okay, so this is the case study in JKSM. So JKSM does not have the authority to modify audit trails. Only super administrator from Mampu have the authority. Okay, so this is the case study for you to learn and understand. Okay, this one is in terms of the levels of security. Okay, for the system, okay, for ERMS, definitely only authorized person can access the ERMS. Not everybody can access. Okay, and for sure, the records manager. Okay, so besides that, sometimes official user also can access, but only view and so forth. And for unofficial user, and definitely they can't view the records, the electronic records in that organization. Okay, maybe what they can view is, for example, website and so forth. Okay. Okay, so this is the requirements for managing trusted records. Okay. So the second one is the retention and disposal. Okay. So disposal, according to the Malaysian National Archive Act 2003, means the manner of managing the segregation of records with a view to destroy, transfer, or otherwise. Okay, when we are talking about this disposal, disposition, it is not just delete. Delete is delete permanently. Disposal, definitely we have to base on the retention schedule whether we have to transfer the records to the archive institution or record center, or we delete, destroy, otherwise. Okay, so organization must ensure that all electronic records have to be disposed upon maturity of their retention period. How long to retain? Because different records series, the retention period is different. Okay. The system therefore must be able to control the retention and disposal of records in accordance with disposal authorization and preservation strategy. Basically, what is disposal authorization? Disposal authority is a written authority specifying which record should be destroyed, deleted, or transferred to the archival institution or records. For example, the retention schedule. Do you know what is retention schedule? Okay, please Google jadual pelupusan record and you will see the retention schedule. Basically, in the retention schedule, there is a record series and the description of the record series and the retention period and also the action. Okay, how long to retain and what are the next action to be done. Okay, so please Google, go and find in the National Archive of Malaysia the Jadual Pelupusan record. Okay, so National Archive of Malaysia has produced many retention schedule. We have the retention schedule for court records, financial records, and so forth. Okay, and then also the preservation strategy for electronic records. For example, the migration, the um, the conversion, and so forth. Okay, basically, we as a records manager, we have to provide the functional requirements for ERMS. We have based on our organization requirement. Okay, and then from there we can give the functional requirement to the system developer and they can develop the system, the ERMS, based on our organization requirement, because different organization we have different in terms of the classification, in terms of retention schedule. For example, court and financial. Okay, for example, for court, definitely the management of the records is different because they have case file and then the civil records, the criminal records. How long to retain the civil records? How long to retain the criminal records? Okay, and definitely we will refer to the retention schedule for court records. What about, and then in terms of the classification, the coding system definitely different. Okay. Okay, so this is the examples of requirement. Okay. The system must automatically track retention period that have been allocated to all entities. The system must maintain an unalterable history of changes and deletion that are made by users, including the date change or deletion. Okay, so basically, and the note, deletion or changes of retention and disposition schedule must be controlled closely to reduce the risk of records being destroyed inappropriately. So this is the example of functional requirements, okay, for court records. Okay, as a conclusion, okay, in order to maintain the electronic record, the system must be capable of validating metadata, creating rules to control the selection of metadata, assigning the appropriate retention and disposition rules to records during records retention, and creating and maintaining an audit trails that track users' access to records contained within or managed by the system, creating and maintaining an audit trail that track changes to records and records metadata, and providing an easy method of checking the audit trails for changes to records and records metadata. Okay, I really hope you can understand. Okay, any question you can ask me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.